Okay, I want to take a moment to talk about one of our mapping applications that we have in the assessor's office. This map application was recently featured in a publication that was from ESRI Corporation in conjunction with the International Association of Counties and Cities. And the topic of the publication was generating income and revenue and efficiency from using GIS. So this is an example of that. This is our annual adjustments application, and I just want to show you how it works and explain to you exactly what it is that we're seeing here. Here we have a little pop-up that just kind of gives us the idea of what this is about. It does give a nice definition of what we're doing here. We have changes from 2021 to 2022 to our values that we see. You can search and filter things down to individual taxing districts in certain areas to see what kind of potential revenue may be there based on the adjustments. Adjustments sometimes go up, sometimes they go down. We have been in a sort of a perpetual market increase for the last several years. So what we're going to see majority of is increases. And we just want to show you how this map can be used to better understand the assessor's annual adjustments, our contribution to the county, and what kind of revenue might be realized to this. So we're just going to click over here and see. So this has the map zoomed completely out. And we see here the gross total assessed value of the entire county we have right now at about $15 billion. We've seen this number increase rapidly over the last couple of years. And we know what happens is if there is an increase in spending, that's great that the tax rate just drops in the areas. But if there is potential, maybe the tax rate could be maintained and there may be potential revenue that could be realized. So here we see there were 64,946 parcels that are shown on the screen here on the count. Some of these may be right-of-ways and that sort of thing. The total change in increased value in this case was going to be an increase of about $1.4 billion. And we're estimating that at just 1%. So if we just took 1% of that, we see that could be a potential for about 14 million more dollars in potential revenue just from this year alone. Last year, the increase was much more significant, and we're not sure, how that was utilized. We know some areas tax rates did go down. But anyway, in this case, what we're seeing here is a map. The key to the map is out here. You can see on the legend that we have some sales. I have sales amounts that are filtered based on the value of the green here. So we can see those higher sales. And then we also have another green, a different kind of green and red to show the increases and decreases that may have happened via our annual adjustments. Now, annual adjustments are created based on sales. So what we do is we use the trending process, which would take in various areas and neighborhoods and so on. We see that we would use trending, and we can see here on the map what that looks like. So up here in this upper right hand corner, there is this graphic chart, and we can see there are, of course, peaks where the sale prices, so we can see the sales amount is much higher than the assessment. And what that should tell us is that there's going to be future revenue. This might be a case where maybe last year's assessment, the current assessment was based on vacant land, but we saw the property sell for much more significant amount. And so in this case, we see, 48 million that maybe they had a developer discount or something. But what that tells us is that maybe next year there's potentially more assessed value to be realized that will turn itself into revenue. So we'll take a look at this. Just in general, I would say that as we're reviewing the data, that we can see that for the most part, our sales and assessments are sort of right in line, with the sales amounts being, slightly higher than the assessments as we roll through this. Few instances where maybe it's lower, but for the most part, we can see the sales are much higher, especially with some of our commercial properties. And those are things that will catch up over time, where we can, later on add those assessments if we continue to see that sort of a trend. But what this offers is to the jurisdictions is a certain confidence level. So we can see that the assessor is assessing things under or in line with current market sales, which will help us defend the value that we've added against appeals. It's easy, the assessor can just add value anytime, but in order to keep that value, they have to be based in realistic trending and data to support it. And so when these folks maybe who have seen higher assessments file their tax appeals, we will know that we have data to back it up. And then, like I said, this gives the jurisdictions, should give the jurisdictions confidence in the assessor's numbers, just to see that we are indeed doing things in a way that can be defended. Because in this case, you can see all of these sales are proportionally slightly higher than the new assessed values, which gives us good firm ground to stand on. And you can see that here through the map. So another thing, when we zoom down on the topic of appeals, as we zoom down in, we can see a little more detailed coding that we have over here is the statuses of different appeals. And we use this tool as a means of reporting to the different taxing districts what exactly is going on. So we can see some of these that may have had large value decreases might have been as a result of a tax appeal that was filed, or you can see cases where perhaps we had increases and maybe they may have also filed an appeal, but we were able to defend those values. So zooming down into the map shows us, like I said, some of the appeal areas. So maybe an explanation for some of these that have decreased. We had this is the Tippecanoe Mall, and we had a big appeal case on that. They lost their anchor stores, and malls in general have been sort of struggling, trying to combat Amazon warehouses that are taxed like warehouses and not retail spaces. So they had won in a tax appeal, and that's why we see this as red in this area, because there was a significant decrease there, where over here we had sort of a significant increase in this case from 3 million to 20 million. So a huge increase here. And they have had an appeal under it, and we'll see how that plays out. But the concept is that anyone in the taxing district can get an idea of have some confidence about the assessor's numbers, understanding that there is a potential to lose some percent of this new value added, but also to just see what the value is in the different taxing districts. So say, for instance, I wanted to see just the taxing district that I live in. I live in Lafayette, which is going to be 004. I could click on that taxing district, turn on the filter. You'll see it'll zoom me out and it'll isolate just those parcels in 004. So if I were a planner for City of Lafayette looking at a potential revenue, I could see right away that the assessor had added, in this case, $291 million of assessed value, which is going to give us another maybe $2 million or $3 million of potential revenue that could be utilized. And that's a really, really great thing. We could also look at school districts or anything along those lines, select several different taxing districts. Also, you're not limited to just one, but in this case, I have just the one, and you can see how these numbers change as we move around the map. Over here on our legend, we do have this. This again describes the increases or decreases, where the sales are at, to provide some level of confidence. And then we also have the layer list. So you can see right now we're just looking at sales. We have taxing districts, we have appeals that are shown when you zoom in, and then we have the annual adjustments, which is the point of the map. We have created this to where we can apply other filters as well. So in this case, here's a filter of, I could just see increases in assessments if I just want to see those and see what happened as far as the increases go. In another area, that also is accounting for the other filters that are previously applied. So let me just turn those off. So we'll go back to the whole county. And if we want to only see those that have decreased, we can take a look, and you can see that they're spread out. That we had of the ones that decreased, we only lost about $47 million. And like I said, much of that was probably due to appeals. When we zoom down in, you know, we get a better idea of that, like we said with the mall here, and how these appeals were filed. So that gives us a little bit of an idea. Sometimes we have corrections that we make, or buildings are torn down, or buildings are added. So we can turn that off. And this one is the burden of proof layer. So this would tell us with the assessor's office, when we increase assessments, if we increase it more than 5%, that burden of proof is on us. Where if we increase it less than that, then the taxpayer has the burden of proof in the appeal process. So here we can do that. And in this case, we can see those properties that have the burden of proof. And here with the rapid market increases, we've seen the majority of the parcels, 45,000, almost 50,000, or almost 46,000 parcels that are where the assessor has the burden of proof. But again, as you can see in the sales data, our sales are definitely still exceeding what these assessed values are. So that should offer a great deal of confidence to the taxing districts about this value that was realized, and the previous year's value as well, because this is an increase over last year, which we added a much more significant amount. So this gives jurisdictions and taxing districts the ability to be able to go in and see what it is that is happening with the assessments, so that they can help them better predict future revenues and realize revenues, and also maybe understand this and how it relates to the appeal process. Also on this filter, there's an ability to add other filters, so you can create your own filter. If maybe you wanted to see increases that were 10% or higher, or 30% or higher, or decreases, whatever it may be, or sales, for instance, that were of a particular property type, you can do a little bit of that. We also have a link at the top to our sales research tool, which is a more robust tool for researching sales. And we have another couple of things for gross rent multipliers, so we can see our properties that were assessed on the income approach, and also a wonderful 3D map that was created to show rental amounts in the area and how rents are keeping pace with the new economy. Go ahead and turn these filters off. Go ahead and take it down. And another piece I wanted to show was the selection tool. So we do have this ability to filter, but we also can select areas. So let's say that I wanted to go in and maybe just select a certain radius from a particular point. We have a lot of value add here. I think this is SIA. You can see that it was a high increase in value. We'll go here and I would just select, say, this just grouping of parcels near SIA, and I can kind of see now what the adjustments were just for that selected area there. So we see how that works on the map. I can also export some of this. So in this case, I have 3,941 parcels. We can do some statistics with that by selecting whatever one of these pieces we have. See how many of those properties we have the burden of proof on, for instance. There's just a few different tools. You could also export that data. Down at the bottom, we have an explanation of the data that is shown and what is selected, and what's on screen. And you can see that we have the state information, the various grades and conditions of the properties, the year built. So quite a bit of our assessment information is available. And you can see what those current totals are in the taxing districts and so on. So this would be a good for somebody that maybe wanted to export some data that was being shown, and what the corrections were. They could actually export the whole database. So go ahead and turn that off. Let me eliminate this extra filter here, or the select tool. I'm sorry, let's deselect everything, clear it. Okay, so I'm back to my numbers that are shown on screen. You can see how these change. The other piece of this I wanted to show was just how you can add data to it. So for instance, say I'm somebody who is an advocate of public schools, and I want to add a layer that would show me the current school district. So I can do that. We have different areas. So under my organization, I can look for schools and see if we have school district layer. We do have a school district. Here's some school board districts. We have some census information. We could add any of this stuff to the map. So that's a TSC. Here's the enriched school board districts. Go ahead and add that, and we can go ahead and see where these different districts are. And when we click on them, we should we're going to see some of the parcel data underneath, but also click through, we'll see what the school districts are. Here's it shows us the school board, who the member is, the other data that's associated with it. This is enriched with census block information. We can go over here and turn that layer off if it's not needed. Also, if we wanted to go on and look at maybe some broader information, I don't know, anything from our organization or someone's own content, but also ArcGIS Online. They have some school district information, private schools, for instance. They could add a layer that would show the private schools in the area, or you can see where those are at, and or we can add the other school districts that has a bit more information even still. So if I were to say select on something like this, maybe I would be able to see the other school districts that were shown. Going to go on to some other data. So some of the other things you could do is files. If you have a file, say for instance that you wanted to upload, maybe it had some other information. I don't know, where the fire departments are at, or whatever it is that someone might be interested in. Water quality or air quality, if there are some environmental issues that need addressed. That way we can pinpoint where the problem areas are and see if there's enough revenue in the taxing district to help address some of those problems. Along those lines, we've been experimenting with a citizen problem reporter in our own organization, and we can look up that, and I can look up, say for instance, road problems. We'll just look at the word roads. I have citizen problems. Let's see, land use problems, snow and ice problems, utilities, overall citizen problems. We add this to the map. So this is going to give us a good array of sort of what is going on out there. Add some of this information. That way, decision makers can maybe go in and they would be able to quickly see what areas are under work, if they're and what kinds of issues are in the individual neighborhoods. So now that I've added these problem layers, have that one there, and so here we go. We can zoom down in an area and let's just take a look what's going on. Let me get over here. Maybe we'll go visit a little bit of West Lafayette. If I were a planner in West Lafayette, I could go on here and I can see some of these pinpoints and maybe see what the potential areas are. This is a West Lafayette school district. And you can see the school district that it's in. We still have that layer on, some other parcel information. But for instance, over here, where we might see reports of other types of problems, that maybe somebody is reporting a lot of graffiti in the area, or they're reporting other road problems. Let's see about this and just what's going on here. Maybe take into account some of these layers and just see what we've got. But like say, for instance, here we see whatever this was, the problem that's going on here. Something was loaded. Zoom down on it. Too far out. Sometimes you get too far out. Here we go. This one's tall grass or weeds. Somebody is reporting. It looks like maybe a test that I did. But this would be a way that someone could go down and they can say, hey, there's a lot of potholes reported in this area. And, geez, look, we're going to have so much revenue in this potential revenue in this area. Maybe, we may have in this area alone possibility of, I think this number needs to change as it's going. This is still giving us the gross number, but we can see what the assessed value is and kind of estimate what that revenue would be for the area as we're searching to see if there's going to be money in the pot for fixing those road problems or correcting graffiti, or maybe we need to maybe we have a lot of complaints of animal problems and we need to hire a few more people at animal control. They can see that really quickly on the map, understand how it relates, see what's going on in the neighborhoods as far as the value is concerned, and get back to it. So in conclusion, I guess this is just wanted to let people know that are looking at this map, how to use it, how it could be used by city planners and county government, taxpayers that might have pet projects they're interested in, and they could add that data. On the add data, I just wanted to add another piece that I forgot to mention on the add data. So we did have, like I talked about, uploading files, and we also have search files, but you can also add files from a URL. So often you can go out and find different kinds of web services KML files, so on, that you can add that are just exist. They just live out there as what we call REST services. So in this case, I already have a window open for REST services. This is some of the REST services provided to us from our Beacon contract. So for instance, we could take a look and maybe see what kinds of information is out here. You know, do we need money in the floodplains if we know where those are at? Or for instance, the trails, if we wanted to add trails, or let's say fire stations. If I wanted to add the local fire stations, I could just go ahead and copy the REST service from wherever you might find it on various websites that publish this sort of information. And we would go back over and we can see, I can go ahead and add that URL. I just copied and pasted it in, and I can add that, and then it adds it as a layer. So you can see now my fire stations have come up. So let's say that somebody is an advocate for the local fire station, and they want to see maybe the area that it covers and potentially how much new value is added in that area. That's where a good example of where maybe we could use that select tool, going back to the circle concept, and just go ahead and draw a radius around that fire station. Or we could filter it by the taxing district that the fire station is in, and then we could see, the revenue that was added just in that area. So anyway, just wanted to cover this map with you. Hopefully, if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me, James Werner, just jwerner@tippecanoe.in.gov, and I'd be glad to answer any questions or walk you through it, or if there are any additions or errors that we can correct. Like I've noticed now this isn't calculating as we zoom in and out and do the selections. So I'm going to make sure that this potential revenue piece recalculates. I just noticed that stopped working. So we'll make sure that that's functioning. Even though, again, that number isn't exact, we'd love to have some programmers who would be able to help us to create a better number for that would have taken into account of different tax rates that are for different property uses, homesteads, and all that sort of thing. We could probably get that number to a lot closer, but we're thinking right now maybe 1% is a good idea as far as a number that we could use to potentially help us better understand the potential revenue in the areas. So thanks a lot, and have fun playing with this map and searching around. Hopefully it's something that will be of a use to the public and to folks serving in local government.